Okay, why take pictures instead of drawing? Why take pictures instead of drawing? This is one question a lot of folks would want to ask. You know, why take pictures instead of what? Drawing. Now, there are a lot of things you can do with your creative mind that you can't do that with your camera, or you can't even do it with AI. You can actually tell an AI, draw a C, you just talk. Then the AI will do based on what he or she thinks. That might not suit exactly what you feel or what you want. But if you are a lord with your pencil, you can actually create what you want by yourself, because you're seeing it in your mind, and then you can actually make it with your paper. So then why take pictures instead of drawing? So these and even more are the things we are going to look at in the course of the study, and then you understand why it is necessary for you to make your own image by yourself. Take a look at that work. Amazing sketch. Isn't it beautiful? All right, so without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so today is the part 3 and the final part for this very topic, drawing, shapes, and composition. So in the course of this study, we are going to look at a lot of things. First of all, we are going to look at still life drawing, which is one type of drawing. We are going to talk about the still life drawing in details. We are going to look at outdoor drawing, and now outdoor drawing include landscape and seascape. So we are going to look at that in details. We are going to look at general drawing, which is what we call general drawing. That implies that I will explain in the course of the study. We are also going to look at drawing from your imagination. Now these are different types of drawing, and then we are going to look at basic geometrical shapes, and finally we are going to look at abstract drawing. That is my favorite, so I want you to stay tuned. That is why I kept it at the extreme at the last. I want you to stay tuned and follow us as we dive into the ocean of drawing. Why draw when you can, instead of taking pictures? Okay, now let's look at still life drawing. What exactly is still life drawing? Now this is the use of lines to express inanimate or man-made objects in any given composition. So when you use line to express yourself, to draw inanimate, or man-made objects, that is what still life. It is the combination, it is the composition of what still object to make an interesting picture. Now let me show you an image that struck my fancy. Now when I saw this image, I was like, wow, this is so beautiful and amazing. What an amazing picture. Now imagine, yes, with your camera, you can just take this and then it will just look dry. It is just an ordinary picture. But because of it's a drawing, you're like, wow, how did he do this? How did he create that light that hits on the glass? How did he draw the glass? How did he, how? That is what you'll be asking. That is exactly the reason why we draw instead of what? Take pictures. We draw to keep you admiring the work, imagining. We draw to keep you thinking. So that is why you should learn the rudiments on what? Or in drawings. Okay. Now, extra time can be spent on drawing still life composition. Now, because the object of composition cannot change its position unless they are what? Shaped. Now, you can actually make a composition and then leave it and travel, and then you come back, the composition is still there. That is if the studio is your permanent studio where nobody goes in. You can do that. So you don't need to be under pressure to draw, as against drawing a figure drawing that mosquito will bite the person will want to kill the mosquito, make moves and then change position and all that. So you need to have that speed if you're drawing a figure drawing, as against the still life drawing. Now most of the types of lines are always represented in still life drawing, as in most types of lines are usually represented in still life drawing, because in still life drawing you see eventually every type of line, as against the figure drawing where the lines are limited. Now ranges, now some of the lines that you see in figure drawing and in still life drawings include structural lines and rhythmical lines, which include vertical, horizontal, curve, wavy, to mention but a few. These are the lines you will see in figure in still life drawing. I want you to join me, so be faster. We'll round up this topic and then we'll call it a day for today. So, all right, so now let's continue and then see. Now, the things that will make a good still life drawing. Now, some of the things that will make a good still life drawing include mechanical tools, electrical appliances, household utensils like bowl, jugs, industrial products like dripping, as in flooded, and then you see flowing clothes and other interesting objects are subject of still life drawing. So if you want to make any still life composition, some of the things you need clothes, you need products from industries, you need folded clothes, you need boil jugs, mechanical tools, electrical appliances. All this will create a very interesting composition of still life drawing. Let me show you an image that caught my fancy. Now this is a perfume bottle. You see how interesting it looks. Now that's a drawing. It is not a photograph. You see how beautiful it looks. So the same thing applies to this the glass jar. You see the glass cup and then the jar behind it. So interesting. So that's a beautiful example of what still life. Now you can, in as much as it's just, if this is a photograph, you will not enjoy, or it's not look this interesting, but because it's a drawing, you want to think, how did he create the transparency between the glass and then you're seeing this thing behind? So those are the things you consider, in still life drawing. All right, let me go back. There's something I want to show us. All right, so look at this. Now this is the photograph, and now this is the drawing. Now among the two of them, which of them look more interesting to you? I will bet you will go for this. Now in as much as this looks like a painting, is interesting, it's an interesting photo, but man, I will go for this a million trillion times, because it comes out very loud and very interesting. You want to think, how did the artist cast the shadow? This shadow I'm seeing here, it looks very interesting and real. And then how did he make this depth? How did she, all those things, this ripple, how did he make this fold and the curve? So you understand? So those are the things you consider while drawing in still life objects. Now let's see another type of drawing is imaginative composition. Imaginative composition. Now this is the act of using lines to express a particular scene or event from the memory. So by the time you're using lines to express a particular scene or event from the memory, what you're actually doing is known as what? Imaginative composition. So you understand? So by the time you're drawing from your imagination, you're representing something, we call that imaginative composition. Now some of this imaginative composition might actually be distorted. Some can be real, some might be abstract. If you look at the image you're seeing here, this beautiful painting of a mother and child, you see a human figure does not necessarily look like this, but is an abstract imaginative composition. First of all, you understand the concept of what? Normal visual drawing, the figure drawing, and then you start distorting to create your own beautiful expression. A particular scene can be a reference of what? Imaginative composition. An occasion, event witnessed by the artist at a particular time in the past that is suitable for a composition. Now some examples include marriage ceremonies, birthday party, traffic hold-up jams, scenes from a village world, wrestling match, football match, amongst other scenes will make a very beautiful imaginative composition. We'll talk more about the scene from the carpenter shop, the tailor shop, a retail shop, a supermarket, a normal regular market. You can draw that to create a perfect and a beautiful imaginative composition. Shops can also be used to form composition. All right. So now if you look at this picture, you see the drawing of two drummer boys. Now they are the Yoruba drummers. So what you see, because of the artist is very creative with his strokes and pen, he was able to put these things together and create this very beautiful drummer boy scene that created a very nice imaginative composition. So now that is exactly what happens as an artist. You try as much as possible to open your mind eyes to see things beyond the regular eyes and then bring it out to life that somebody will see, man, and love to buy and place in his or her room. Now themes can also be drawn from simple words like rest. Example, a man resting against a wall or tree, a farmer resting under a tree, a cutlass, axe, wheelbarrow rest against a tree or against a wall after being used. That is very funny, for the day work. You understand? That is, you can pick a word and then create out your own imaginative composition from it. You can pick peaceful and then draw peaceful. You can pick misconception and then draw misconception. You understand? You can pick a word and then bring it out to life in painting. Okay, so that is exactly what imagination is all about. Now, for the word rest, if you see the drawing there, you see the way the two legs are tied together. It means rest, feeling complete. Even the lady that is lying down, sleeping, shows rest. And that's a perfect example of imaginative composition. Meanwhile, you can use this to call your attention, to drag your motor. Some of you, you're paying more attention, and then All right. So now, that is that about imaginative composition. However, abandonment can also make a very good and interesting composition, like abandoned car, a bad road, a roadside, a house left over to overgrown, that is overgrown with grass, trees and other things. Imaginative composition can also be inspired by popular nursery rhyme like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. You know, you can imagine things and then create it. I see the moon, rain, rain, go away. All these beautiful nursery rhyme, you can actually imagine them and then create them. Now, this theme can also be used to encourage and develop skills in imaginative composition. Now, wide knowledge of the different types of drawing is required for a good imaginative composition. Now, if you must have a wide range of understanding, both drawing of landscape, seascape, animal, plants, figure, still life. You bring all this together to create a very powerful imaginative composition. Now, you should be good in human drawing, object drawing, and landscape, even seascape, drawing the land expanse, and then the beauty landmass. They are all necessary for figure, for imaginative composition. Now, if you see the two images here, they represent a perfect example of what imaginative composition. Now, this is a mother feeding the child, breastfeeding the child, and then this is a drummer boy. Now, this work is done by Tony, rather. Now, steps required for imaginative drawing to develop imaginative composition skill. Now, develop your drawing with a theme in mind or with a situation or event you are familiar with. That is the first thing you do to develop your drawing. Now, second thing you do is you make series of sketches. 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, as many series of sketches. Now then, after doing that, now if your composition requires human figure, limit the number of people probably to 2 or 3 persons so that you don't make mistakes. Some of the pictures I just showed you are the images of about 2 or 3 persons, but that does not mean you cannot draw crowd. You can actually draw crowd in your imaginative composition. Now, if it requires crowd, then limit the number between 5 and 8. That is in your own level. But as professionals or other practicing artists, you can draw millions and trillions of crowd. You can draw football crowd if you so desire, if you so pleases. Meanwhile, some of all this crowd, you represent them with colors and strokes. You understand? It does not necessarily mean you start drawing each of the figures, start drawing eye, drawing nose, and no. You represent them with colors, and by the time you're looking at it from afar, it gives you a holistic job. All right, let other figures fade into what? The background. When you're doing this, let other figures fade into the background. You don't necessarily need to detail them. Now, sketch your drawing gradually. If you are not good in life drawing, now you use stick drawing. Practice that over and over again to develop your figure drawing. All right, I want us to look at this image and then see the imaginative composition skill the artist used in creating exactly what he just created in this drawing. Beautiful work of art. Now, you see, created A. Use the letter A to create the crucifix and the love. Very soon, some of us that are Christians, we celebrate Easter. And then for the Christians, they will understand this imaginative composition. It is a beautiful imaginative composition. I'm sorry I don't know the name of the artist that did this job, but all kudos to the artist, that created this work. It's amazing. It's an amazing sketch. I so like the concept behind the precision, the neatness, and then the message in it. It's amazing. Now, love requires the mingling of two things. That is exactly what the work is talking about. The coming together of different things, to create that particular scene. So that is that with this. All right, so now let's continue. Now, outdoor drawing of landscape and seascape. Now, there are two forms of outdoor. Now, the first one is landscape, and then the second one is seascape. In as much as sometimes we have the cityscape and other scapes, but however, we have two major scapes, which is the landscape and the seascape. So we are going to look at them individually and then go further. Now, first, what is landscape? Now, landscape drawing refers to the use of lines to represent and observe forms on the land mass. Form like houses, trees, animals, and other expanse of what? Of land. Experienced landscape artists use tones of colors, forms, shape, space in very dramatic way. Now, they explore nature to the fullness, to the admiration of what? Art critics and what? Patron. They explore nature to that extent. All right, so now let's continue. Let's see this drawing of a landscape. You see how the artist took his time to draw the landscape. First of all, precisely was going down with the trees. After drawing the trees, take his time to draw the trees, and then he started drawing the firmament, the base, the horizon, the line of horizon, and they started adding trees at the background. Now that's a perfect example of what, a landscape drawing. You see how interesting the landmass look, how everything look, both the shading and the precision, the grasses, how it grows, and then the partition, how you patterned everything. Now this can actually be an imaginative composition and as well, a still life composition. So while you're drawing, you try as much as possible to observe some of those rules. Now those rules, we are going to learn that in perspective. And for some of you that have not seen the video for perspective, I will advise you go and check the video for perspective. That will help you understand, so you can actually know how to draw things, to fall down into the distance, into the space, and then come out with very strong and beautiful work of art. So your knowledge of all this will give you an amazing work of art. So that is that about, landscape drawing. All right, so let's proceed. Now let's look at seascape drawing. It is the act of expressing natural forms around the sea, the stream, the riverside, with strokes of lines, theme like beachside scenes, waterfall, sound dunes, and ships on the sea. All these are interesting themes for a seascape drawing. And I want you to see this video again for a seascape, a very brief seascape drawing. Now you see how the artist represented the horizon there, and that's the horizon, showing the light, where the light is coming from, increasing the tonal gradation, and then increasing the darkness and the tones. Now these are some of the mountains that are behind these other mountains that are closer to the artist. Now bear this at the back of your mind. Whenever you're drawing, objects that are closer to the artist appears brighter and darker as against the same objects that are far off. The ones that are far off appears very light and fainty in color. So you need to observe all these while creating your drawing. So you see how beautiful this looks. Now you see the sand mass, and then you see the waterfall, and then it's adding stones by the river, and I guess at the end of the day you still draw the canoe or the ship in the ocean. So having this at the back of your mind will help you create beautiful work of art. All right, so let's proceed into the next one. Now let's look at general drawing. Now this is the use of line to express diverse forms of nature and man-made objects, etc., in a given composition. A general composition comprises of bones, fruits, boils, clothes, cutleries, knife, fishing, pins, and all that to mention but a few. That is if you're drawing a general drawing. And finally, we'll look at abstract drawing. Now, this is the use of lines to express forms, only known by and understood by the artist that created them or that drew it. Now, the forms is an abstract drawing to represent a particular theme personally for the artist's consumption and imagination. So abstract drawing are usually personal. I call them the personal art. They look very interesting and beautiful. So look at this abstract image here. Amazing sketch. It's an amazing painting that can only be interpreted by the artist. This is only the artist that can actually tell you, okay, what I had in mind while I was creating this is the face of anything. It could be the face of a color, the face of the gods, depending on what he wants to call it. So this is a perfect example of an abstract image. Now the form are usually non-representational or non-figurative form, like the image you just saw. They are non-representational or non-figurative. Some abstract artists are the only ones able to explain their distorted form to the admiration of their patron. Most times, abstract works can be only explained by the artist that created them. This is a perfect example of an abstract drawing. All right. Now, some abstract compositions have known form in them, while others are outrightly distortion of the known forms. Now, Jemo, Bramo, and Taiwo Oladiyi, and other Mbayo artists or in the art club, those members, most times they express themselves with abstract form, just like the image you just saw at the previous one. Before we go into our final listing, let's look at nature drawing. Now, nature drawing is the last type of drawing we'll talk about today. Now, before we now itemize every other drawing that we've talked about today. Now, what is nature drawing? Now, this is the arrangement of lines to express forms of plants and animal and other natural form in any given composition. Forms of plants like fruits, yam, potato, onion, onion, orange, grape, etc. And even animals like fish, crab, crayfish, cats, goats. Name them. Even their bones, like horns, shells, to mention but a few, all these things that are created or that is being gotten from the nature is known as what? Nature drawing. By the time you bring them together and then draw them, what you're just doing is what? Nature drawing. Mountains, hills, and valleys, all these falls into nature. Now, notable features of studying nature drawing implies, drawing these things from the nature. All right. Now, I haven't said this, so let's do a quick rundown of everything we've talked about so far. Now, the summary of today's lesson, from the onset, from part 1, part 2, and part 3, we've been talking about drawing, how to make interesting drawing, how to make your drawing magical, why draw when you can actually photograph. So I've made justice, I've tried as much as possible to make you understand some of those things. However, still life drawing is one of the type of drawing we talked about. We talked about outdoor drawing that involves landscape and seascape. We talked about general drawing. We talked about drawing from imagination. We talked about abstract drawing. And then we talked about nature drawing. All these are the types of drawing we talked about in this section. Now, if you've stayed up to this time, kudos to you. You are the real MVP. Like, you are my real MVP. Congratulations. I want to believe whenever you come across the topic drawing, you kill it and then do justice. However, to crown it all, if you don't practice, you cannot. You must learn to practice and practice and practice before you will be able to do. So I would advise you, pick some of the videos you see in the background and then pause them, follow them gradually, and practice over and over and over again. Little one, the Bible says, faith cometh by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing the word of God. It's not just one. So by the time you repeat these things over and over again, you become a Lord in it. Thank you so very much. And then let's dive into our Q&A and then try our hands and answer some questions. Now, the first question I want to ask you is, define general drawing. What exactly is general drawing? Can you try your hands on it? Oh, yes. And then finally, explain drawing from imagination. If I asked you to explain the word drawing from the imagination, so what then would you say? All right, I believe if you cannot answer any of these questions, then you have to go back and watch the video. All right, so now let's dive into the magical world of the exam guide, where we'll answer some questions from the exam guide. Now, this is where you get everything. You just have to try your hand over and over again. Because at the end of the day, if you listen to us without practicing, then as a matter of fact, you're just pouring water at the back, on the back of a duck. All right, so let's get started and ask her some questions. Now, the ability to indicate a source of light in an object is known as dash drawing. The ability to indicate a source of light in an object is known as what? Drawing, expression, outlining, shading, or sketching. Common sense will tell you is what? Shading. Because shading is to bring out the light and the dark of what? A work of art is the crescending of what? The movement of light from the darkest part to the lowest part. That is what? Shading. All right, let's see question number 2 and try our hands with question number 2. Which of this drawing is strictly inanimate? Which of this drawing is strictly inanimate? Is it figure drawing that is strictly inanimate? Is it first of all, you understand the word inanimate. What is the word meaning of the word inanimate? Inanimate means things that are not originally made. They are man-made. You understand? They are what? Man-made. I call them inanimate objects. They are still objects. I've given you an expo. So you should know that the answer is what? Still life. And then, if you move further, and then you check, let's try and see question number 3 if we have more time. And then, a shading method by which an artist indicates dots on drawing object is referred to as pointillism. Let me not waste your time. Pointillism is the answer. So the answer is D, pointillism. And then finally, let's try question number 4. In modern art, cubism. Okay, this question is not in the frame of our study, so let's just skip it. And then let's see if we can see a question that is very close to the frame of our study. An outdoor drawing can be done through dash. A, abstract, arrangement of objects, composition of objects, imaginative composition, or observation. And T, it is not abstract because it's outdoor. And T is not arrangement because it's outdoor. Those things are already there. Composition of objects, that one is something you bring and then you arrange. Imagination, no, you are not thinking out anything. Then observation, yes, the answer is what? Observation, because now you are just outside to observe these things and then draw. Therefore, the answer is E.
Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the exam guide. Now, the app scores and give a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice test. Now, you can learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like study mode, mock mode, and practice mode. It also have other features that make learning fun. Now, it is a must-have for all serious students. Download the app from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and then share this video to anyone you know that would benefit from it. Thank you, and bye-bye.